G'day, it's Heath here from pickinglessons.com. In this banjo lesson, we're going to take a look at Bonaparte's Retreat. We're in the key of D. There are 3 parts of the tune. We're going to take a look at part A in a moment, but if you head over to pickinglessons.com, you better get yourself a copy of the tab that we're working from, which contains the left hand marks and your finger marks for the right hand as well. You'll also find the next 2 parts of this lesson where we break down part B and C of the tune. You'll also have some backing tracks and play along tracks there you can download, so pickinglessons.com. Alright, let's jump on into a slow playthrough of part A and then we'll break it down, have a look at some of the techniques and work on some exercises to help us get to know it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's part A of the tune. Now first they're in the key of D. You can leave your banjo tune to open G though, you don't have to change it. We don't actually need string 5, you can leave it out. If you wish, you can change it to an A so that when it does sort of vibrate sympathetically in the background, it'll be in tune with our chord, but you can leave it as a G and that's fine. So what I've done here is actually tune to A, D, G, B and D, but we don't really need the 5th string, so up to you. So in the key of D, we're working around this chord shape a lot, which is a D 5th chord, and our first finger and second finger are holding the A and then the D notes there. And our melody notes we find around this position here are really easy to play. So we have our 4th string D, E and F sharp, and then on the 3rd string we have a G, an A and a B, and then we've got the D we're going to hold there on string 2. And then when we need it, there's an E and an F sharp around that as well. And there's a couple of double stops we're going to play using fingers and holding down notes. So if you can get this chord position to start with, that's what we need in the left hand. All of part A is using this hand position. We have to change slightly for melody notes, but really this is our hand position. Okay, so just to demonstrate this hand position that we need, we're going to hold this D chord, first 2 measures with the pickup. And passing note there for the B, moving us on to the next portion of the melody. So we didn't need to worry about changing our hand, essentially, just hammering on that 3rd finger. So we're holding those 2 fingers in, as I mentioned, 1st and 2nd. Our thumb's going to play that pick up there, the A and the B. Then we're into this roll, essentially a backward roll over the D chord we're holding. So middle index and thumb. To that 3rd beat in the 2nd measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now, when we pick up to the next note, we've got to do a little single string picking technique there. So we're going to hammer on to that 3rd finger on fret 4 when we get there. You're going to start this little passage with the index finger, then the thumb, and then the hammer on. So beats 3 and 4. Thumb, index, thumb, hammer on. Okay, a little bit of single string. So we are focusing on the single string technique as we go through this as well. Okay, so moving on to measure 3. Measure 3, keep maintaining that chord position. First 2 beats are relatively easy. 1, 2. So the 2nd finger there on fret 3, 1, and then the double stop. Bringing in the 3rd finger there. You can use your thumb and middle finger, or index and middle, take your pick. Thumb and middle is marked in the tab. Now, 3rd beat, we have a triplet, 3 and with a pull off there. Again, just leave your fingers in place. 3rd finger's doing the work with the triplet, hammer on, then pull off. So we're picking with our thumb, hammer down with the 3rd finger, then flick with the 3rd finger to get our triplet notes. 3 and Nice strong flick for the pull off. 3 and 3 and Then the 3rd finger comes in on that F sharp. So now we've got the 3 notes holding this D chord position. Again, just keep those fingers there. Don't take off the 1st and 2nd fingers until we need to, and you'll know where that is when we get to it. So we're leaving those fingers in there. So measure 3. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, measure 4. Just modifying our fingers slightly. 1st finger needs to move here. Maintain the 2nd finger though, I wouldn't take it off. 1st finger's moving to fret 2 there, that E note. We're going to hammer onto the F sharp, fret 4. 1 and 2, 3 moving back into basically where we started next in measure 5. So left hand position, staying in the chord shape there for the D, that D fifth chord, the A and the D note. The fingers change as we need to for the melody, but where you can, hold that position. Even if it's just that second finger, it'll make a big difference. Try not to take them in and out all the time. Really just leave them there until you need to move them. Looking at the second half of part A, we start out with the same little passage, but moving through the end of the second measure, we have a different melody, moving on to a variation towards the end of this section. So beats 3 and 4 in measure 2. 3 and 4 and hammering on that third finger to the B note. Thumb, index finger, then the middle finger on string 2. So maintaining this chord shape until we hit the next measure. We're going to move that first finger down so we can cover the second fret melody note. Little finger or third finger if you can, but little finger is probably easier to hammer on this passage. And then pull off. So we're holding this double stop here, the D and the E note, hammering onto the F sharp. Hold that until we play the pull off, until we flick that note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So double stop, first finger, second finger, hammer on. Now the hammer on that note's a quarter note, so we need to hold it for a beat once we get there. So our rhythm, our counting, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Once we've finished with that measure, we're going to shift back into our chord we were playing earlier with the first finger on the A, then another hammer on into the B. And that's measure 8. Back into a little bit of single string there at the end. Okay, so there's our first 8 measures of the tune in part A. Left hand position, work on it like I've been mentioning, keeping that hand around the chord shape. Because we're in D, that is really what we're after for a lot of what we're doing. There's some filler, some sort of rolling over some of the chords, and a lot of it's melody as well. It's played around that position, it works perfectly. As we move on through the next couple of parts of the tune, there will be some variations. I'm not going to hold that D chord shape the entire time, but similar idea as we move through. The right hand is really kind of straightforward. If you've been picking banjo for a while, the right hand is not overly complicated. There's a little bit of rolling you've noticed in there to begin with in the first and second measures, a little bit of single string, but the left hand with the hammer-ons and the pull-offs and the triplet, and then also holding that chord position may be a little bit more challenging, something you're not used to. So take your time, just work on the exercises we break it down into and give it a go. When you're ready though, jump on over to pickinglessons.com and you will be able to get yourself a copy of this tab, but you can also jump into the lessons for part B and C, so in the member section there, and get some MP3s to play along with and backing tracks for the tune as well. So pickinglessons.com, I'll see you there.